Because of you, we have an opportunity to save this planet. And I'll always be grateful to you for that.
And our very own superhero, Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel?
This is her, right here. A custom-designed Funko in her honor.
Hello everyone, Jester Bell aka Female Frodo Baggins here, and yeah, I've done a couple of videos before complaining about the character of Miss Marvel, and going into the history of how she actually has never had the success that they say that she's had, and how they just keep pushing her relentlessly anyway. And I also had to talk about the character in my rant video about how I watched Marvel Zombies, and how Miss Marvel was the main character there, and some of the flaws of her writing. But in this video, I want to go in more depth about a certain point and zero in on one certain element of the push of her character. Now, I noticed this a whole lot in Miss Marvel, that whatever she's in, it's like the characters around her always have to validate her and affirm her and talk about how amazing she is, despite the shows and comics themselves not really showing that, or it not really making sense for the characters to all adore her and for her to mean so much to them. Now, the first example I'll use is Marvel Zombies. Now, I know that the video I did was a rant, and so now let me just get into it a bit more. So, in Marvel Zombies, you just see it throughout the show that Kamala Khan is, by all intensive purposes, the main protagonist of the show, and she keeps having characters come up to her and tell her that she is wonderful for giving everyone hope, and she has given everyone hope in this dire situation, and just commending for her and patting her on the back and calling her pal. Like, there's a moment in the show where Shang-Chi comes up to her and really commends her and is friendly with her, even though they didn't interact at all in the show before. And she just keeps having people claim that she is amazing and she's giving everyone hope. But what did she actually do to earn that? And to give you the context, in the show, Miss Marvel is the one who holds the MacGuffin, the special MacGuffin that will supposedly get rid of all the zombies. But how does Miss Marvel get that MacGuffin? Well, she plays rock, paper, scissors with Riri Williams, and she is the one who has to reach her hand into the stomach of a dead person in order to get the device out. And later, the reason why she has the MacGuffin is because she charges into zombies when she shouldn't have, and she's going to get herself killed, so Riri saves her, pushes her away, and throws her the MacGuffin and tells her to carry it to where it needs to go. So that's why Kamala Khan has the MacGuffin that is supposed to save everyone in the show. It is because she initially played rock, paper, scissors in order to do a gross thing, and had Riri Williams toss it to her when she would have otherwise gotten herself killed and was making a stupid decision. So that's the entire reason why Miss Marvel has this thing. So throughout the show, where they're praising her for giving everyone hope and whatnot, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, she just is the person who happens to have this MacGuffin to save everyone. It's different than, say, Frodo Baggins, my father, who made active choices throughout the Lord of the Rings, where he was given the choice to give up and not take the ring to Mordor, but he chose to do it anyway, sacrificing himself. But Miss Marvel is just kind of unwittingly the person who has the MacGuffin because of a series of circumstances. And throughout the show, she scarcely does anything rather than just run away with her friends with this thing. There's a moment where I think it was Awkwafina that she saves with her powers.
That was gross.
Badass.
And so she finally did something, and everyone praises her, and that's like a big moment because she finally did something and saved someone. But that's about it. Miss Marvel is just kind of along for the ride with this MacGuffin. She just happens to be the person who has it. She didn't make an active choice for it, and everyone is just praising her as the one who is giving everyone else hope, even though she's not a leader. She's not really saying anything to inspire anyone, or at least I don't remember if she did. Marvel Zombies went on for 2 hours, and I would like to just forget the entire ordeal. But yeah, Miss Marvel did not actually make many active choices in the story, yet she is just inexplicably praised and beloved by everyone and made out to be as if she is the savior when they didn't actually write her character to be a very active protagonist in the story. But you see that happen all around with Miss Marvel's character. Like, there was this weird episode of the Daredevil Born Again show where Miss Marvel's father appears and he's basically just there to hype up Kamala Khan all of a sudden. And the episode is totally out of place as a silly episode amongst this otherwise very serious show. And over in the comics, you get the same thing, where in the comic where Miss Marvel died so they could just resurrect her as a mutant character, Spider-Man and Spider-Man's cast is really mourning her, and Spider-Man goes to sleep with like her mask by his desk. Even though Spider-Man was never really friends with Miss Marvel, she was never really a character associated with his cast, but they treat it as just a major loss in a Spider-Man comic for her having had died. And the same thing happens in X-Men comics, where now they've made Kamala Khan and X-Men, like, all the characters just inexplicably adore Kamala, like she's the friend that they had this entire time and just didn't realize. They just all love her. All these characters that have history in Marvel Comics and that are icons just inexplicably love Kamala. And why is that? Because the problem here is that the actual effort into making people love this character and her making these strong friendships, it doesn't actually exist. The effort doesn't actually exist there. It's just like everyone loves Kamala. Now, why is this happening? Now, first of all, the root of this that a lot of people might point to is Mary Sue syndrome. Now, for those who don't know, Mary Sue is a very real writing trope. It's a term that actually came up to refer to fan fiction. Mary Sue was the name that somebody titled a character in order to make a mockery of a sensation that they were seeing crop up in fan fiction, where people would create their own original characters to insert into their favorite franchises, book series, and whatnot. And these characters would be inexplicably perfect, like better at every skill in that universe than everyone else. And all the main characters would fawn after them and whatnot. And what this would be is essentially a self-insert for the writer so that they could live out their fantasies of being the person who is beloved and powerful and skillful in their favorite universes, using these characters in which to live vicariously through. So that might be part of it behind Miss Marvel and other characters like her. Miss Marvel herself, as I've covered in another video, is a self-insert character. She was created by then Marvel editor-in-chief Sana Amanat, who created her off of her own experiences as a Pakistani American growing up in New Jersey. That is a huge chunk of the reason. Scratch that. That is the reason why the character got so much push, and arguably why she is still getting pushed, though I'm not sure of the amount of influence that Sana Amanat currently has. But that might be part of it, is that it's the Mary Sue self-insert phenomenon, where it's just this woman sort of fantasizing who she would want to be in this universe and how she would want to be perceived. But I would like to propose that I think a different thing is happening on top of that. It could be just Mary Sue self-insert syndrome, but I think that there's another thing. It's a sensation that I see in some writing where if someone really wants you to like a character, or they really want you to like a concept, but they're insecure about it, then they will make other characters in that property validate it for the audience in hopes that that will convince the audience. For example, let's say that in Avengers Age of Ultron, and I will do my entire breakdown of that movie, have to get to it, but I noticed that when they did the Black Widow and Hulk romance, they knew that they didn't have any development to lead up to it. Even Joss Whedon and others who worked on the film admitted this was not an idea that they had in the previous films. This is something that was just coming up for Age of Ultron. But I noticed that it's almost like to make up for the lack of development for Bruce and Natasha's relationship, that they make other characters, be it Captain America or Clint Barton's wife, just acknowledge like, oh, how obvious a couple Natasha and Bruce are and how great they are for each other. And to me, that was insecurity on Joss Whedon's part, knowing that he hadn't done the work to actually make these characters be a couple, actually have development behind it. And so he was trying to have other characters in the narrative do that for him. Tell the audience that they should feel that these two really have a connection, and that they should feel that these two should be a couple, because the work wasn't actually put in behind it. And I think that that is what is happening with Miss Marvel on a lot of these projects, is they want people to like this character so much, but they either don't understand or don't want to actually put the effort that would actually make her likable, that would actually give people reason to root for her, that would actually, put the development into why she has close relationships with various characters. So what they do instead is they just take characters in the narrative, and sometimes popular characters, to tell the audience that they should like this character by making other characters say that they like her. Miss Marvel's death in comics will be given relevance because Spider-Man is mourning this character. Never mind that Spider-Man, to my knowledge, never even had a relationship at all with Miss Marvel, but if Spider-Man and his cast are mourning the death of this character and it's a big deal to him, then it'll be a big deal to the audience, right? Or in Marvel Zombies, if you have all the other characters telling you how great they think Kamala is, then you'll think so too, right? Or in Daredevil, if you have Kamala Khan's father hyping her up to Matt Murdock, a character you already like, then you'll like Kamala too, right? Or in X-Men, Miss Marvel is now a character in X-Men that you're all supposed to like. They will just inexplicably make all of the X-Men characters adore her. And if characters you like adore her, then you'll adore her too, right? Not a very good way to go about promoting a character because the writing is so obviously forced. It doesn't make sense for all of these characters to be fawning over Kamala, and it just becomes annoying for the audience, especially if it's characters that they do already like being molded and forced to react a certain way that they know is not organic. Audiences do not like to have things forced upon them. Now, what would be a better way to try to get people to like Miss Marvel is not have all of these characters validate her and say that they like her. Actually put the effort behind her. Like, why should we think that Miss Marvel is such a great character? What are the active choices that she makes that maybe other characters would not make, that would make audiences like and respect her? What is the depth to this character that gives her an intrigue to her? Or like, what can you really dig into her beyond just being a quirky teenager from New Jersey? They don't do any of that. They just jump to having everyone else in the narrative like this character in the hopes that the audience will. And to me, I don't even think that it is simply Mary Sue syndrome. I think the problem with Miss Marvel and a lot of characters like her is that the people behind the scenes like the idea of these characters being successful more than they actually understand the effort that needs to go into a character to make them successful. And that's the whole thing with all of these characters that Marvel came up with. Like, they just spewed out so many characters from the Shang-Chi cast and the Eternals cast and the Black Widow cast and so many other characters that they wanted to be successful because they wanted the next generation of Avengers characters. Once the other actors got too old and had to move on, they wanted the next generation of Avengers characters to be a diverse cast. Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel especially, I remember the day it was being perceived that they wanted Captain Marvel to be the new face of Marvel Comics, and Miss Marvel was being pushed as the next Spider-Man. They just loved the idea that a character like Miss Marvel, this Pakistani American character, would be the next icon of Marvel. But to me, it seems that, once again, rather than putting the effort into writing the character that way or even understanding like how to get audiences to like her, they just wanted. They wanted the reality that she would be an icon for the universe so much, they just tried to force that reality. So, as I've said before, it didn't matter if she wouldn't sell. They'll just continuously push her as relevant in these comics and make other characters like her, because when that happens, then it doesn't matter if the audience likes it or not. They perceive that they have the reality that this character is one of Marvel's mascots and she's at the top of everything, and whether a character actually sells or not, they will not let go of that because they just love the idea of her being this icon of the Marvel universe above all these other characters more than anything. But here's the thing. Even if you actually put the effort into writing a character and making her endearing to the audience and giving them reasons to like her, then you still cannot control whether or not audiences like that character or whether or not that they're really, really popular or not. Let's talk about Spider-Man for a minute. Do you think that Spider-Man was created with the intention that he would be the most popular character at Marvel and that he would be the mascot of Marvel Comics? No, not at all. In fact, the concept of Spider-Man was never supposed to even make it to print because Stan Lee's editor hated the idea so much.
I ran into my publisher's office and I told him this was my reaction, the reaction he gave me. Stan, that is the worst idea I have ever heard.
He said, No one wants to read about a teenage superhero unless they're a sidekick. No one wants to read about a superhero who has a lot of problems. No one wants to read about a character with spider powers. Spider powers are gross. Spider-Man was a character that was never supposed to even be published. Stan Lee just snuck the story into a canceled magazine now known as Amazing Fantasy, and the story picked up because people saw Spider-Man and they personally gravitated towards it, and it was because of people gravitating towards Spider-Man and the audience deciding that they liked the character that he eventually rose to become the mascot of all of Marvel Comics. But you see, you can't necessarily drum stuff up like that. I believe that you can put your best foot forward and make educated guesses on what is going to work with people, but you can never actually predict it. I can even just speak for the same thing with making videos on YouTube. Sometimes you put in all the effort into a video, and you think it's going to be the one that just blows up, and then no one cares. Other times you just throw out a video and you think no one will care about it, and then that's the one that really blows up big. Or sometimes it can be in the middle. It's the same thing with creating characters. You can put your best foot forward, but you ultimately never know what people are going to really resonate with. And that's why with Ms. Marvel, you can't just decide that the character is going to be popular and that she is going to be an icon and that she is going to be one of the next mascots of Marvel Comics. Because even if you did actually put the effort into her being that compelling of a character, you still cannot judge whether or not the audience is going to like her that much. And that's the real problem with these self-insert characters and these new characters that they have come up with, is that they like the idea of that character being successful more than they actually like accepting what the reality could actually be. And so that is why Ms. Marvel keeps being inserted into so many projects where all of these characters just worship her for some reason, when the audience doesn't actually gravitate towards this character. And it's why it's gotten to a point where I'm just so fed up with her and I would like not to see her anymore, because I am tired of being told that I have to like this character by every other character that she interacts with. If you want to make your character successful, then put your best foot forward in actually giving that character a compelling story, multiple dimensions, depth, choices that they make within the narrative that would make them compelling to people. But you still have to accept that the chips are going to fall where they may on whether or not that character is successful or not. But just creating a sort of blank character to be your self-insert and then making all of the other characters that already exist in the universe validate them and say that they're amazing is probably a surefire way to make sure that your character will never be successful, because there is nothing to them and the audience is going to be fed up with them constantly being pushed at them. But that's all I got for you guys today. What do you think about the sensation of self-inserts, and do you think that we are ever going to get away from these types of characters in Marvel and DC media and media as large? Are we ever going to go back to a day when not all of these characters are self-inserts? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this channel. Please consider becoming a member or a patron, and I will see you guys next time.